We're going to reconvene the regular meeting. The February 9th, 2026. The first item on the agenda is a resolution that the following minutes be adopted. And that's the regular council meeting minutes, January 26th, 2026. All those in favor? Thank you. That was carried. There's no resolutions from January 26th. To move forward? So,
Oh, sorry, yes.
the B one, or the hen one?
No, sorry, no, but from today's meeting,
Oh, I thought we were.
No.
we hadn't
No,
done
no,
this from
I'm
January
just on
26th.
26, yeah.
on the January 26th, there's the resolution below the council.
So the resolution before you is that council approve the progressing into the construction phase of the proposed updated downtown trail transit exchange as designed. Thank you, Councilor Butler. Is there a seconder, please? All those in favor?
Can we discuss it, or
Oh, sure, go ahead.
are we gonna mention what we talked about earlier, or is that with the, no, never mind. With the washroom being potentially moved, is that
I don't think that's part of this resolution.
separate?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, so is there someone to make that motion?
It's on the floor.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
It's been moved.
Okay, all those in favor? And opposed? Thank you.
So,
Did you
sorry,
want that
sorry,
noted? Oh,
For the transit thing, Nick.
I think for clarification, Councilor
Yeah.
Cashel was,
Yeah, well,
Just
I
confirming.
apologize for exiting the room there.
Okay,
and,
so I can read the resolution again. And the resolution is that council approve progressing into the construction phase of the proposed updated downtown trail transit exchange as designed. And we thank you, and we
It's
have a
been moved.
seconder.
it's been moved inside.
Yeah, all those in favor? And opposed? And did you want that noted?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Virgos.
Okay, next up, we have resolutions from the February 9th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting to be considered for adoption. And there's none.
The insight premise from earlier today will be coming forward. I can read that.
Sure.
Resolution. So council considered and resolved that pursuant to the provisions of the unsightly premises bylaw number 2669, 2008, it is hereby resolved that the owner of lots 12 and 13, block 51, plan NEP 465D, DL 230, KD, EXC, PCL A, C 104991, PID 016-284-267, and 016-284-259. Be notified to remove the accumulation of discarded materials, namely tarp, household garbage, cardboard, plastic items, broken wooden furniture, discarded pieces of clothing, plastic containers full of discarded items, plastic bags full of discarded items, and other debris within 14 days of receipt of the notice to do so. And further, that the corporate officer of the city of Trail be authorized in default of the action being undertaken by the owner within 14 days of the notice to do so, to carry out and have such work carried out and the expense charged to the owner. And if unpaid on December 31st, 2026, the expense shall be added to and form part of the taxes payable on the real property as taxes in arrears.
Okay, is there someone to make that motion? Thank you, Councilor Benson. And the seconder, all those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Under reports and meeting of minutes of council committees, we have a resolution that council adopt the following minutes and recommendations within the Community Safety Task Force Committee meeting draft minutes for January 26, 2026. And the chair is Councilor Martin and Councilor Benson. Any comments on that one? Those minutes? Go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you through the chair. Yeah, we had we always have an agenda ready for these meetings. But prior to this meeting was the weekend of the bad batch of drugs that came through town and the fires, the unfortunately, the deaths and everything else. So we dropped the agenda and actually just went around the table and had everybody speak who was involved on that weekend. We had comments from the fire service, from the police service, from the ambulance bylaw. We were there, but you didn't drop off for Mexico. We just wanted to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to be able to speak, almost like a debrief. And make sure that people who in their different organizations were able to get the, necessarily counseling if required, because it was a pretty bad weekend for everybody involved. Let alone as to, not having a one center for folks to go. That was another topic that wasn't part of this meeting. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of the direction we went with that meeting. That's all.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Councilor. Okay, is there a motion to adopt this? Oh, sorry,
Just a
Councilor.
point, it indicates the RCMP were not, but everything else indicates that.
Yeah, the RCMP were there. Yeah.
So should that be scrapped, right?
Yeah, it should be. Thank you for pointing that out. Appreciate that.
Second?
Okay.
Okay. So do we have a motion to adopt those minutes for the, thank you, and a second, all those in favor? And that was carried. Councilor Martin.
Oh, yeah.
Review district report, please.
Thank you through the chair. On behalf of council, I attended the following RDKB meetings. Excuse me. On Wednesday, January the 28th, I attended a policy and personnel meeting in Grand Forks. The committee reviewed 3 policies, criminal record check and fire department service level policies were referred to the board of directors for adoption, while the responsible conduct guiding principles policy will be forwarded to the board with a recommendation that we wait for direction from the province on codes of conduct before making any changes to that, to the third policy. On Wednesday, January 28th, attended an RDKB board meeting in Grand Forks. RDKB staff sent a letter to the city of Trail requesting that the municipality and the regional district meet as soon as possible. Sounds like the meeting took place last Friday, which was good. Our board of directors received the first draft of the consolidated 2026 to 2030 5-year financial plan. The RDKB electoral directors and staff will take the draft, or excuse me, the RDKB directors will take the draft plan to the electoral, I'm screwing up here, I apologize. The RDKB electoral directors, I had it right the first time, and staff will take the draft plan to the public meeting during their upcoming town hall meetings. I forwarded a copy of the plan to Mr. McClure for his review. I hope you got it. Probably did. Staff finalized appointments to the Solid Waste Management Public and Technical Advisory Committee, the PTAC, as of January 28th, 2026. Appointments included RDKB board members, representatives from member municipal local governments within the RDKB, RDKB staff, adjacent regional districts, community members, commercial and institutional solid waste generators, operators, haulers, and recyclers. RDKB staff will forward backgrounders on 7 resolutions to the AKBLG for the 2026 convention. And the RDKB electoral area directors approved 11 grants and aid totaling $7,900. On Wednesday, January 28th, I attended a West Kootenay Boundary Regional Hospital District meeting in Castlegar. Susan Hewitt from Castle was elected chair of the board for 2026, while Everett Baker from Grand Forks was elected the vice chair. Executive committee elections were held, and the successful candidates were from the Cusp, Nelson, RDKB Area E, and Trail. The board received a capital status report from Lennon DeBest and Matt Wilkie from Interior Health. Major projects for KBRH. As we all know, the new MRI suite is the construction started for that. New meal delivery system, relocation installation of air supply fan, a new CT scanner, exterior door access to the mechanical room, steam plant retrofits, dining room solarium replacement, and a freezer for the laboratory. Lemmy Lodge, chiller and cooling tower replacement and replacement of rooftop air handlers. Harbor House, they're upgrading the drainage around the building. on Wednesday, February the 4th, special RDKB board meeting in Trail regarding this hiring of a new CAO. The board held interviews with the top 2 candidates for the position of CAO. After the interviews and deliberations, the board hired James Chandler as the new CAO. Mr. Chandler will officially start his new position on March 1st. On Thursday, February the 5th, an RDKB Liquid Waste Management Plan meeting in Trail. Goran Pankowski, RDKB Manager of Infrastructure and Sustainability, provided a monthly update on the Columbia Pollution Control Center upgrade. Excuse me. I forwarded the updates to everyone last week. Hopefully you got it in your emails. The committee has asked for a site visit in either April or May, which I also asked if mayor, council, and city staff could also have a tour. That's it for my report. Sorry for messing it up.
Thank you, Councilor Martin. Is there any questions for Councilor Martin? Go ahead.
Thank you through the chair. You asked if we could get a tour. Was that a successful ask?
Well, it will be. Like right now, if you go there, be walking through a bunch of mud and like there's only one building that's kind of taking shape in the back. And that big steel one beside the mall is slowly starting to come into play. And I think once we get to April, there's gonna be a lot more to understand and see how the process is working. So that's why into possibly April or maybe a little bit later, just what's worth going out there.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other questions for Councilor Martin? No? Okay. Under reports and others, we do have a couple of 2026 AKBLG resolutions. Mr. Moorhead, do you want to proceed with those or do you skip the report? Or-
Yeah, I can speak to it briefly if you'd like, Chair. Sorry, Your Worship. So as the council is aware, AKBLG is upcoming in April, hosted here in Trail. And as part of that, their resolution committee has a call out for resolutions to be considered at the AGM conference. So council has brought forward, councilors have brought forward 2 resolutions for council to review, and if approved, would be sent to the resolutions committee for their consideration at this upcoming AKBLG, and if requested and endorsed through that body, then to UBCM. We'll do them separately, so you council is approving the submission. The deadline is February 17th, so if there is amendments to this, we would have to do a special meeting to try and get them approved. If we do move forward today, these will be sent on, city letterhead, outlining the resolutions. There is a bit of leeway there to change minor wording or anything like that that might make the resolution more successful without actually losing the intent, so not having to come back to council. But they are just minor amendments, whether to clarify or cut down where needed to. So those could happen in the time before the 17th. Your Worship,
I can read,
Okay.
the first one is the resolution, whereas extreme weather events are increasing across British Columbia, creating an urgent need for temporary emergency warming centers and shelters to protect vulnerable individuals, and emergency warming centers are temporary, short-term but urgent responses typically operated in existing community buildings and rely heavily on nonprofit organizations, staff, and volunteers to operate safely during emergency conditions. And whereas the British Columbia Building Code and British Columbia Fire Code are intended to operate as coordinated companion documents, and provincial guidance confirms flexibility exists to allow temporary emergency sheltering through exemptions and site-specific fire safety planning while maintaining public safety. And in the absence of clear and consistent provincial direction, inconsistent interpretation of the codes has placed frontline operators and volunteers in untenable positions, increased personal and organizational liability, and in some cases prevented rural communities from opening emergency warming centers during life-threatening winter weather. So therefore be it resolved that the AKBLG and the UBCM request the province of British Columbia through the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs and the Office of the Fire Commissioner provide clear, practical, and consistent guidance on the application of the BC Building Code and the BC Fire Code for temporary emergency warming centers and shelters that can be safely implemented through site-specific fire safety plans and risk mitigation measures. Any questions on the resolution? Good. Okay. So, do we have to do these separately?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And so we're looking at the resolution to endorse.
Yes, the resolution to endorse the following topic to be submitted as a resolution to, on behalf of the City of Trail. To the Association of Kootenai and Boundary Local Governments 2026 Annual General Meeting for consideration. I just need to thank you, Councilor Butler. And is there a seconder? Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. That was carried unanimously. And Councilor Hanson, yours is up next.
Thank you so much, Mayor Jones. Council, please present this resolution to you. At its core, this resolution is about fairness, public safety, and rural equity. British Columbia's toxic drugs crisis is a provincial health emergency. It affects every community, but it does not affect every community equally. This imbalance is felt clearly in rural BC. In the Kootenai boundary, several communities act as regional hubs. They host regional hospitals, centralized health and social services. But because of that, they experience a disproportionate number of overdose incidents, drug-related emergencies, and emergency call volumes. Each of those incidents require coordinated response from fire rescue, police, and BC ambulance, and those responses come with real and rising costs, overtime, staffing pressures, equipment, training, supplies, and the impact goes beyond emergency response. Host communities are also carrying growing municipal costs, increased bylaw workload, public safety management, and the need for sanitation, debris removal, hazardous waste disposal, and environmental remediation in public spaces. This is where the inequity is most clear. Many rural municipalities have a small tax base and limited capacity, yet they're being asked to absorb escalating costs tied to a crisis that is fundamentally provincial in nature. This level of cost downloading is simply not sustainable. To be clear, this resolution is not about blame and it is not about punitive approaches. It's about ensuring communities have the resources they need to respond safely, compassionately, and effectively without unfairly burdening local taxpayers. What we're asking for is reasonable, targeted, sustainable provincial funding for rural host communities that provide regional hospitals and centralized services, and a consistent provincial framework that recognizes the disproportionate regional service impacts faced by rural communities. So the resolution is that council endorse the following topic to be submitted as a resolution on behalf of the City of Trail at the Association of Kootenai and Boundary Local Governments 2026 Annual General Meeting for consideration. Whereas British Columbia continues to face a prolonged toxic drug and overdose crisis that drives escalating emergency response demands and complex social impacts, with rural communities experiencing disproportionate strain due to limited local healthcare capacity and reduced access to treatment, mental health, and support services. And whereas rural communities carrying regional hospitals and centralized health and social services bear significantly higher volumes of drug-related incidents and associated municipal costs, including overtime, staffing pressures, emergency response, sanitation, hazardous waste management, and environmental remediation, despite smaller tax bases and therefore limited capacity, creating inequitable boundaries and burdens across rural British Columbia. Therefore, be it resolved that the AKBLG and UBCM request the province of British Columbia establish a sustainable province-wide funding model that offsets the disproportionate emergency response, public safety, and sanitation costs borne by rural host communities responding to overdose and toxic drug-related impacts, ensuring these expenses are not borne by local taxpayers.
Okay. Is there a seconder, please? Any questions or comments for Councillor Hanson on that resolution?
It's really good.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so.
On the interference. But you know, it's really impressive that you're putting those two forward, and the previous one that was also put forward directly by yourself, which was adopted at the last UBCM consideration.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
I think these are really important ones, and I'm glad to see they're coming up the trail.
thank you. I am too, actually. I think it's really exciting that council's really supporting it and, you know, keeping it alive out there so people know what's going on.
Yeah.
So we have some correspondence for information. And we have the resolution that the following correspondence be received for information. And that is the Society for Protection and Care of Seniors. And we received it on February 2nd, 2026. Go ahead, Counselor.
Can I speak to it? Or-
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, just, first of all, thank you to the Society for Protection and Care of Seniors for submitting this letter, and also thank you to Mr. Moorhead for your February 5th reply. I just want to acknowledge that they do raise concerns regarding low barrier supportive housing. And there's also reference to overdose prevention sites. Now, both of these inclusions are in our official community plan draft. And I just want to publicly say that I will be speaking to these two matters at the official community draft bylaw review held here on February the 23rd, 2026. And that's all I have to say. Just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. And I also wanted to acknowledge the letter too, because I think council has everybody's safety as a priority, and we recognize that a lot of people want to live downtown. It's easy to live downtown, it's walkable, but it also has access to, you know, all of our amenities downtown. I just think it's important that we make sure that it's a safe and healthy place for people to live. So, and as Councillor Cashel said, you know, we're still working on the official community plan, and there's an opportunity to go in and have a look at it, make changes. So, I appreciate the letter, and we will definitely be talking about it when we look at the OCP again. So, you know, we're really navigating some complex issues here. You know, housing affordability, aging, and a mental health and addiction crisis. So it's a really difficult situation. So we're gonna work hard to make sure we have a safe downtown area for everyone. Correspondence for action, the Southwest Volume, sorry,
Receive that.
can we receive this motion to receive the correspondence, please? Thank you. Seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. Selkirk College request for, this is correspondence for action. And we have a letter from Selkirk College.
That was removed from the agenda.
Sorry?
It was removed from the agenda because it was dealt with at the January 26th meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that. I thought it was, but I still have it on my agenda.
So it would be the Heritage BC request for proclamation would be the next one.
Is there a motion to, for the Heritage BC that the City of Trails proclaim the week of February 16th to the 22nd, 2026 as Heritage Week? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. All those in favor? And that was carried. The BC Epilepsy Society request for proclamation. International Purple Day. Does anyone want to make that? Thank you. All those in favor? Thanks. Okay, my report. I just wanted to do a quick report on I know that you probably have already seen the report that I did on the blood labs, the working group. And that's what this is. It's a working group, and I realized after the last council meeting that I had never really commented on the people that were involved in this working group. So I just wanted to make sure that I put that forward tonight. And right now it is myself and Interior Health, 2 individuals from Interior Health, and we have 3 members of the community that also sit on that committee, are on the working group. The individuals, And we have the Life Labs manager that sits on the working group as well. So that changes sometimes during meetings. We don't always have the same people. But I just wanted to make sure that I reported out that it's a working group that we have. So I know it's been a while since I've done a report, but we did have a meeting and it was a really good meeting. The services at the Trail Riverfront Center, Health Center are continuing. They want to keep the blood lab going there so that they can collect more data. They think that with the different workflow implementations that they've done, that there's a better flow for patients that are coming up to get their blood tested. So they're happy with what's happening there. The recruitment is also going in a really positive direction. They've reached out to the states and done some hiring in that area. So they're looking for some new workers to be coming on to the staff. They have looked further into providing the lab assistance program at Zephyr College in Castlegar, which is really exciting. It's a in school, like they have to attend the classes in school, whereas the other one at Kamloops Thompson University is done in their own time. So they're not finding that a lot of people are going through the course fast enough. So this way, they're hoping that they have a bigger realization of students go through. What else did we touch? So we're gonna keep meeting and keep the good work going. If there's any issues, what we do is just get a hold of each other and have a conversation about it, see how it can be resolved. And that's been working really, really well. And then I do try to send an email to council about what the meeting was about, and then I usually post it on Facebook because people are quite interested about what's happening there. And I also think it's important to share that we have another meeting at the end of April, I believe, so they're really excited about the work that's going on there, and I think it's really positive right now. So I also missed in the last council meeting, the Trail Ambassador Program with Councillor Casual and Councillor Butler and Councillor Martin, and it was a great event. Not that they haven't all been, but this one was really exciting because they had to keep bringing out chairs. They just had such a good interest in it. And there was 8 candidates that made their debut. And really, it's going to be really fun to watch them grow and develop over the next couple of months here. I think that's just also wanted to say that, we've been busy with the AKBLG convention coming up. We're planning some really interesting entertainment. And I believe that the registration for that is going out this Friday. Should be going out pretty quick, so it's kind of nice that we have a couple of resolutions to bring as well. Okay, that's my report. Is there any questions or comments? Okay, we have some bylaws for consideration. And the first bylaw is bylaw number 2967, 2026. And that is a bylaw to rezone the property at 12 Hazelwood Drive to allow for short-term rental accommodations. Did you want to report on that, Chris?
Happy to give a very brief background. I know we kind of did one earlier today, but following our public hearing, just the bylaws presented to you today, where staff are recommending third reading and ultimately adoption. I am happy to answer any questions for clarification purposes at the public hearing. I know there was some questions about legislation and whatnot, so I'm certainly happy to answer anything.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Are we just doing first and second reading and adoption tonight?
Just third reading.
Third reading?
I believe my recommendation is for third reading and adoption for Hazelwood. The following bylaw does have that MOTT requirement for referral and sign off.
So I guess my question to the chair is it possible that we can table these items to next meeting so that people can have time to think?
Okay,
Suggest that.
It would just be a postponement, motion, so, to a definite time, so it would be the February 23rd meeting, so, it would be, you know, that, council, postpone the third reading and adoption until the February 23, third regular meeting.
So I'd like to put that motion forward just because I think there's an awful lot of information to take in tonight. I'm not
Okay.
comfortable just doing it on the spot.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay,
I will just make a point, as was brought up in the public hearing, the public hearing is now over for that bylaw, so no more, there's no more submissions or receiving of any, commentary on this particular bylaw.
okay. So, all those in favor of the motion?
Putting it over till the 23rd.
And opposed? I voted in favor.
Okay, I didn't see how you feel looking that way.
Would you like your opposition noted in the minute?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, can we move on to the next one? So we have bylaw number 2968 of 2026. A bylaw to rezone the property at 3249 Lilac Crescent to allow for short-term rental accommodations.
Same spiel,
Mhm.
the bylaw is being presented for staff are recommending third reading and seeking council direction to forward this draft bylaw to MOTT, for sign off. If council accepts the staff recommendation, they would see the bylaw return to a future meeting for adoption, and as always, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on that bylaw? Go ahead, Councilor Butler.
Did you say future adoption or tonight's adoption?
Yeah, if we require that MOTT sign off, as per the Transportation
Yeah.
Act, section 52. I believe. So it would be a future meeting.
I would be prepared to go and make it third reading on this one. It's a completely different presentation
Yeah.
than the one that we experienced from Hazelwood Drive. So I would make. I
The
don't know if I need to-
resolution?
Yeah, that we proceed. That's how I feel that I'm confident that I'm had enough information tonight on this one, Lilac Crescent, to make my decision.
Thank you, Councilor Cashel. Any other questions or comments on this one? Go ahead, Councilor Hanson.
Yeah, I found, regardless of which one we were dealing with, a lot of things became very evident. One, the public isn't aware of the legislation changes. And so I think while we had a lot of frustration due to unknowns, I think we as council or communications or staff really have to maybe figure out a way to articulate that those zoning changes have happened and that those were legislated changes. They weren't just the city of Trail deciding to do this. It came from legislation, and that any lot, and I will tell you, 280 meters squared is a 3,000 square foot lot. That's a 30 by 100 foot lot. Most properties in Glen Mary are 50 by 100. So that then would, if it's near transit, they can go up to 6 units in those, on those lots. So I think the public needs to be very clear, very, some way of communicating to them that this is, whether it's a short-term rental or not a short-term rental, your neighbor can go and put 3, 4, 5, up to 6 units on their property now, which I think when this happened, that was something that was brought forward, but I don't think it was ever something that came out really publicly as an announcement of these changes. I think, again, I agree they're two very different animals. Lilac Crescent, while I think parking is important, Glen Mary has no sidewalks. That is a narrow street. It is a narrower street than Hazelwood Drive, actually significantly narrower. I live in Glen Mary. I understand where this is. I walk my dog and my kids and all of that through there. I think though, the basis of this leaning into the legislation is that you must have, or the new legislation for short-term rentals is 10,000 population. what that gentleman brought forward was something that I've always had in the back of my mind. If it has to be an owner occupied unit to allow for a secondary suite for management. I do see the somewhat need to have some short-term rentals. Doesn't mean we need lots, but people that are staying for medical treatments, people that have dogs, or maybe they can't afford a hotel, right? Or they're staying for a longer period of time, or something, or have a kid and they want to be in an area where the kid can go outside. So there are definite needs for some in the right locations and with the right circumstances. So because of that, in this location, especially having the neighbors directly beside speaking to it, that knowing these people are very diligent and that it isn't a fully separate suite, but they're in there. I would go ahead to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Councillor Wilson.
You know what, Tia answered my question when you're talking about the 10,000 population. Do we know what our population would be with Warfield if amalgamation was to go
Over
ahead?
10,000.
We go over. So then that puts us just in the principal residence. And then does that eliminate what you just said about the fourplex, sixplex?
Yeah,
That's
on top.
still there, even above 10,000. Oh, that was my question. Thank you. That makes more
Okay.
sense.
Thank you. So the resolution
Thank you.
adopted zoning amendment bylaw number 2968, 2026 be read a third time.
I'll make that motion.
Seconder? Thank you. All those in favor? And that was carried. Bylaw number 2970, 2026, a bylaw to consolidate and update the city's animal control regulations. Excuse me, bylaw number 2970. So the resolution is that animal control bylaw number 2970, 2026 be read first, second, and third time.
And just to clarify from the whole, there is the other resolution on there, that staff will be bringing forward an amending bylaw, for the inclusion of hens and bees, possible inclusion of bees, depending on the
Oh, I
existing
see. Yeah.
beekeeping bylaw, with a staff report, to council's consideration prior to the July council meeting. So that is included in the motion here.
Great, thank you.
Just a question for clarity. Is this on the chickens, the hens?
So,
No.
we-
Okay. Not rooster. We know it's not rooster.
the council, considered through committee of the whole to move this bylaw through third reading
Okay.
and approval. With the caveat that, an amending bylaw for the inclusion of hens and bees will be brought forward at a later time.
Perfect, thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Benson.
I just want to state on the record that we did Google it and bees are part of the Animalia kingdom, therefore would classify as.
Oh, you didn't know that?
The staff will review if we can repeal that bylaw and within the animal control.
Thanks for sharing that, Councillor Benson.
Thank you.
Absolutely, I didn't want to give false information.
So the next item on the agenda is the notice of, I thought we raised, okay, all those in favor of the animal control bylaw? Thank you, that was carried unanimously. So, notice of motion introduced at the January 26, 2026 regular council meeting by Councillor Benson. Councillor Benson, did you want to read that out?
I can-
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Whereas the city requires a stable, consistent, and permanent framework for responding to extreme weather events rather than relying on temporary solutions that must be recreated each year. And whereas while these yearly efforts have been valuable, they are not a sustainable or reliable substitute for a coordinated, pre-planned framework aligned with regulatory and safety requirements. And whereas the regional district of Kootenay Boundary did not approve an extreme weather response shelter location in the current year due to building code compliance issues, highlighting the need for pre-approved code compliant options. And whereas an emergency management and climate readiness warning center did not operate this year due to limitations related to volunteer capacity. And whereas extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and severe, increasing the importance of advanced planning and interagency coordination. And whereas this is the final winter season of the current council and there is a responsibility to provide continuity and preparedness for the incoming council. Be it resolved that council directs staff to work with regional district, Kootenay Boundary, EMCR, Interior Health, and RCMP, and relevant community service providers to develop a formal extreme weather response and emergency warming cooling shelter framework for the city of Trail. And be it further resolved that this framework includes clearly defined roles and responsibilities, minimum operational standards aligned with the BC Building Code and EMCR guidance, identification of pre-approved and code-compliant locations or contingency options, activation and communication protocols, and consideration of funding, staffing, and interagency agreements to support sustainable annual operation. And be it further resolved, the staff report back to council with a proposed framework and implementation plan by early summer, recognizing the need to support ongoing extreme cold response while ensuring readiness for potential extreme heat events. Good, right?
Councillor Cash.
No.
I'll second that.
I do have a friendly amendment. I'm wondering if we could be whereas, excuse me, an emergency management and climate readiness warming center did not operate this year due to limitations related to volunteer capacity. I'm hoping that we can take that out because it wasn't because we didn't have the volunteer capacity. They were ready to go. They were ready. They had their training planned out, their schedules. The warming center didn't operate, that was not the reason that the warming center didn't operate.
Question, why didn't it operate?
Why it didn't operate?
Yeah,
Because they couldn't get the fire boat.
I thought the shelter and the center are two very different things.
They are.
That's where I'm getting confused with all this. I thought the center, we didn't have volunteers, the shelter, we would have had volunteers.
Correct. That's what was reported through the chair at the January.
Yeah, they didn't have volunteers because it had changed, their work capacity had changed.
Yes.
Because they weren't allowed to,
Sleep.
people weren't allowed to sleep in there. And not that the volunteers slept, but once that changed, it actually did put their workplace in a different position. Because people were coming in not sleeping and they weren't coming in as stable as they could have if they had sleep.
I'm confused on this.
Councillor Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. I believe, if I'm reading this right, Councillor Benson, the intent was clarifying the fact that because of the change, that the volunteer capacity changed because it wasn't able to operate as a warming center because it didn't have the volunteers for that. However, if it had been an emergency weather shelter, the volunteers were happy to move forward, which is what which was what was reported, correct?
That is what was reported.
Okay.
That was what I experienced to be reported at
Mhm.
the first council meeting in January.
Yeah, and through the chair, that's exactly how I interpreted the report as well, that ANCORs and related team, TCAT, et cetera, were available for the emergency weather shelter. Because I raised the question myself, why not pivot in the interim to the warming center? And it became very clear that ANCORs, who is a nonprofit organization, but the volunteer group involving Ms. McLean, clearly stated that they weren't able to do that. They just didn't feel it was humane, so they pulled back. So I look at this as being an accurate interpretation of what was disclosed at that meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Benson.
Can I just speak a little bit to this? I think it'll cover concerns. And it was, so 3 years ago, we held our first lessons learned meeting after the shelter, the emergency weather response shelter at the United Church. And it was noted that although it was successful, it was not sustainable in terms of, we really depended a lot on volunteers, and we needed to look for a way to formalize that. So I brought this forward because I see the end of our term coming and I see winter ending, and I feel that we can't keep reinventing this every year. It's inefficient, it's super stressful. I see the emotion it's brought out of council, of staff, of our volunteer groups. And it leaves, most of all, it leaves our vulnerable residents at risk. Part of that was what was reported at the January meeting when
Right,
I clearly asked, we don't have a shelter because of the sprinklers. And we would have approval to have a warming center. And my memory, your worship, was it was yourself that said. We can't because we don't have the volunteers for that. So either way, I don't think it matters. I think that it just shows a systemic issue in what is happening, and we need something that's pre-planned. Gives predictability. I don't want to see the next council scrambling to secure locations and volunteers and approvals. We need to build a system that outlifts any one council term, any one staff team, or any one volunteer group. Because extreme cold and extreme heat events are becoming more frequent and more severe. And its coordinated framework ensures we can respond to both cold and heat. And I want to just say there are examples of other communities that have their response plans posted on their website. It's something that they can, it's not a secret, they can go to it. And Kelowna, Kamloops, Prince George, Victoria, and Surrey are examples. And I got a little bit of heat, I felt, after putting this notice of motion out, and I think it's because everyone is very invested in this, and I think we need to take a step back and remember that our purpose around this table is governance. And I want to be very clear that I'm not criticizing past efforts from this. I want to build on them. I think a lot of really good work was done. It acknowledges the hard work of our staff, our volunteers, and partners, but it recognizes that this system, as it wasn't sustainable 3 years ago, it's still not adequate. And having something formal and posted puts us in a proactive, prepared position. That's a lot of peace for the next council. So the information I put in there in terms of volunteers was based on the center itself, not on the shelter. I understand we have excellent people that were willing to step forward for the shelter. They weren't if we had a center, and that's fine, that's their prerogative, but perhaps there is the Red Cross or someone else that we could have reached out to if we had a plan in place. If one thing doesn't work, it's not all of our eggs in one basket. Thank you. Whoa.
thank you.
Just one further thing. The blaming that maybe we've seen from this council has been very disturbing to me personally. I think if I can just touch on what Councillor Benson said, we're not blaming volunteers for any failure. I personally am not blaming TCAT or Tammy McLean or any volunteers. I respect and admire what they've done. And I just want that to be very clear on the record. This is not about blame. It's exactly, and I can't articulate it as well as Councillor Benson did. I totally concur and agree with everything that you said. And I appreciate you very much for bringing this motion forward. Thank you.
And if I may, I also think it's something as we go through and we have other systems like this in play, we need to always look at it through a lens of the next council and how we could set them up for success. And this is our first example.
Well, and the only reason I was asking about that sentence is because I didn't want to the volunteers to feel that they weren't appreciated or needed or recognized. So that's the only reason I was, well, not the only, but that's the reason I was asking for that to be removed, but I can see that there's not a first and seconder on that, so. But I will ask that in your first be it resolved, if we could include BC Housing in there, because BC Housing is the funding partner of this whole program.
For the shelter part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we actually, we need them to be a part of it. So that's the only other,
In the first line?
the first be it resolved.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay. So is there go ahead?
I would just say, just to make sure we're all on the same page, just for the amendment of adding PC housing, can we just vote on that amendment, which then will amend the resolution? So we'll vote on that first, please.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thank you. All those in favor of the amendment? Okay, thank you. And now all those in favor of the resolution?
As amended.
And that was carried unanimously. And our next meeting is February 23rd, 2020. Oh, sorry, Councillor Marshall.
Well, I think
And,
we got
okay,
a couple of notice of motions here. Sounds good.
To keep fairness, Councillor Cashel informed myself first, so we'll go with Councillor Cashel.
okay,
All right, it's only 12 pages. Notice of motion. The city staff direct. The city council directs staff to initiate a practice of inviting the Trail and Greater District RCMP Detachment Commander to attend city council as a delegation on a quarterly basis to, number one, present quarterly policing statistics to the city of Trail. Number two, provide operational and community safety updates of interest to mayor and council. And number three, be available to respond to questions from mayor and council related to policing priorities and trends. That is my notice of motion. Thank you, Mary Ellen.
Thank you, Councillor Cashel. Councillor Hanson.
Thank you. You all both set via email? Okay, so I don't need to hand these out or do that? There's two.
I'll take.
I like to read along.
Okay, sure.
I have had a friendly amendment adding something to it.
There's
There's two pages, two pages.
Front and back.
Just two pages. Okay. Oh, there's.
It's not fun.
Okay, so just some background. I want to first begin by recognizing and sincerely thanking our frontline workers, our firefighters, police officers, paramedics, public work crews, bylaw officers, outreach workers, and the individuals and organizations who advocate every day for people struggling with addiction and our vulnerable community. Their compassion is real, their work is exhausting, and they're doing everything they can with the limited resources available to them. I also want to be clear that this notice of motion is not about blaming vulnerable individuals. People living with addiction deserve dignity, care, and meaningful supports. And many in our community are working tirelessly to provide exactly that. This motion comes forward because the city of Trail has reached a critical point. As city council, we are receiving letters, emails, and phone calls daily from residents and businesses who are frustrated, overwhelmed, and asking us to act. Trail is a compassionate community. Our businesses are trying to be understanding and supportive. But the impacts of the toxic drug crisis are no longer manageable at a local level. We have seen funerals disrupted because people were overdosing on the steps adjacent to the funeral home. Businesses are repeatedly cleaning up human feces, needles, and garbage from their properties, not occasionally, but continually. These are not isolated incidents, and they are not acceptable conditions for any community. Our frontline workers, including our bylaw officers, are being asked to respond to the same situations over and over again. And those frontline workers sometimes reviving the same individuals multiple times in a single day. This takes an enormous toll on their mental health and well-being, and burnout is becoming a very real concern. And let me be clear, this situation is not the result of a lack of compassion at the local level. It is a result of a provincial health emergency being downloaded onto municipalities without the services, funding, or authority required to manage it. The city of Trail does not control healthcare, addictions treatments, housing supports, or long-term recovery service. Yet we are left dealing with the consequences every day. Our community is asking the city to do more, and we hear that call. But compassion without capacity is no longer sustainable. Trail has stepped up, our frontline workers have stepped up, our community has stepped up, and now it's time for the province to step up with meaningful funding, services, and support for regional communities like ours. So whereas the city of Trail contributes significant annual funding to the regional district of Kootenay Boundary and the RCMP for delivery of emergency response services, the city of Trail and its residents are experiencing increasing impacts of the opioid and toxic drug crisis, including a significant number of incidents involving drug overdoses, substance use related medical events, and drug related calls. Emergency responses to these incidents regularly require attendance by multiple agencies, including Kootenay Boundary Regional Fire Service Rescue, Police Services, and BC Ambulance Service. These incidents create significant operational and financial impacts, including staffing pressures, overtime costs, vehicle and equipment deploy, training requirements, consumable medical supplies, and increased service demand. The City of Trail is the primary regional service center within the surrounding area and hosts the Kootenay Boundary Regional Hospital, along with other centralized health and social services. Due to the location of these regional services, the City of Trail experiences a disproportionate number of overdose and drug-related incidents and emergency call volumes compared to surrounding communities. While emergency services are delivered through a mix of municipal, regional, and provincial systems, the City of Trail, being the largest population center and tax base, bears a significant share of the local financial burden, including through the regional service funding model. In addition to emergency response costs, the city of Trail is incurring increasing municipal costs related to vulnerable populations, including city of Trail bylaw enforcement time and resources, responding to and managing encampments, abandoned encampments, and related public safety issues. The city of Trail is also required to incur third-party contractor costs for the removal, transport, and disposal of debris, hazardous waste, and abandoned materials left behind from encampments in order to protect public safety and environmental health. The opioid and toxic drug crisis is a provincial health emergency, and municipalities should not be required to disproportionately bear the financial burden of a systemic healthcare and social challenges. Therefore, be it resolved that council formally requests the province of British Columbia provide targeted sustainable funding to offset the city of Trail's disproportionate share of emergency response costs associated with overdose and drug-related calls attended by the Kootenay Boundary Regional Fire Service Rescue, Police Services, and BC Ambulance Service. Council further requests that the province provide targeted funding to support the city of Trail to offset increasing municipal costs related to vulnerable populations, including bylaw enforcement costs and third-party contractor cleanup and debris removal costs from abandoned encampments and related public safety impacts. Council further requests that the province establish a regional host community funding model to recognize and support communities that host regional hospitals and centralized health and social services, and therefore experience disproportionately high emergency response and municipal service demand. And the mayor be directed to write to the Premier of British Columbia, the Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General, the Minister of Health, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, and local members of the Legislative Assembly requesting funding support and long-term policy solution. And staff be directed to compile and provide supporting data, including call volumes, year-over-year trends, overtime and staffing impacts, and direct and indirect cost estimates related to overdose and drug-related emergency response, bylaw enforcement, and encampment cleanup to strengthen the city's advocacy.
Thank you, Councilor Hanson.
I'll make that motion.
No, it's not.
I know. Yes, that's it. Yeah, anyway.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is adjournment.
Next meeting.
Guys, you have a minute.
February 23rd.
Next meeting is February 23rd, 2026 for the committee of the whole, forwarded or followed by the regular council meeting at 6 p.m. held in the council committee room under chambers at 1394 Pine Avenue, Trail BC, and via Zoom live meeting. And next is question period.
There's no one in my meeting room today, but we do have some of the members online. If anybody online would like to ask a question, council, could you please use the raise your hand function? I see no questions, Steve.
Okay, thank you. So a motion to adjourn, please. All those in favor? That was carried unanimously. Thank you.